Hi, I'm State Senator Daniel Squadron. Welcome to Represent NYC on Manhattan Neighborhood Network. You know, in politics, there's a whole lot of fighting, a whole lot of talk about this position and that position. And the fact is, a lot of the times, the people who are affected are the ones who are forgotten. And I don't know about you, but for a lot of my constituents in Lower Manhattan and Brooklyn, they tune out when they hear about political fights because too often those of us in politics and government don't do our job to say, this is how it affects you. This is why it makes a difference. When I work on issues, I really try to work on issues that do make a difference in people's lives. And that's what today is all about. We're going to try to present the faces and the individuals who are impacted by the things that I've been working on in my district and in Albany. And you know, the truth is, there's a lot else going on, and a lot of those fights do sometimes have a real impact on people's lives. But if we don't do our job and communicate to you how they matter and why they matter, then we're not going to have any success at all. So this is about making state government a little more interesting, a little more meaningful, and hopefully showing you how what we do matters or could matter in your life. So today we have two great guests with us talking about a really important issue. For years, I, along with Representative Grace Meng, Councilmember Margaret Chin, Assemblymember Ron Kim, and others, have been pushing for Lunar New Year to be a school holiday. Lunar New Year is the most important cultural celebration in the Asian calendar. Up to 15% of New York City school kids are Asian American, and for years we couldn't get the former mayor to consider this, and now we've worked with our current mayor, Bill de Blasio, to make Lunar New Year a school holiday. Why is this so important? Well, I have two guests to talk about it. One, Jenny Lowe, chair of the board of the Chinese American Planning Council. The other, Matthew Lowe, her 13-year-old son, New York City public school student since kindergarten. Is that right, Matthew?
Since pre-K, actually.
Since pre-K?
Yes.
Pre-K before universal pre-K?
Yeah.
So where did you go to elementary school?
I went to elementary school at PS 130 in Lower Manhattan.
Okay, and obviously Lunar New Year occurred during that time. Would you go to school on Lunar New Year when you were in elementary school?
Sometimes I would, but towards the end of elementary school, I stayed in the school to maintain my attendance record to apply for middle school.
So let me ask, when you would go to school on Lunar New Year at PS 130, and where is PS 130, by the way?
PS 130 is down in Chinatown, on Hester and Baxter Street.
Okay, so when you would go, were there a lot of other kids there?
When I would go, nobody came, not even the teachers.
So it was, you would say, a wasted day?
It was pretty much a wasted day. The only thing we did that was productive was educating our subs on what Chinese New Year or what Lunar New Year was.
And would it mean that you would miss the celebration with your family?
Yes, I would, and I just kind of despise that because, you know, spending your time with your family and having a lot of fun, you know, you get to know them more, you get to bond with them.
And we're going to talk about that in a second. We want to talk about what we eat on Lunar New Year, but
Ooh.
I'll go to your mother. And you also went to New York City public schools.
Yes, I did.
And I guess in those days, the push for Lunar New Year as a school holiday really hadn't started.
No, it hadn't. We just took a day of absence being in school, but celebrating Lunar New Year was very important to us.
And as someone who was raised in New York City, came here as a young child, and now is raising your child here, what does it mean for you for Lunar New Year to now be recognized in the school calendar?
Oh, it's huge. And for years, as a student, we couldn't understand why we don't have our holiday off. And so it was very difficult to understand. But now as I grew up and became active in our community, I realized that it's just about recognition, about voicing your concern and working with elected officials like yourself and the other members of our community. We feel that there's hope, and that's why we've been voicing our concern about having this holiday as a legitimate school holiday for our kids. And it's a huge thing, and we really, really appreciate what you and Assemblymember Ron Kim have done at the state level to help get this holiday for us, for all of us.
Oh, we weren't going to let it not happen, and we pushed like crazy. So let me ask that choice when Matthew's growing up, being with the family for this incredibly important celebration and missing school. I know you certainly pushed Matthew to do well in school. So what was that choice like?
Well, it was tough. It was very tough in that I knew what it was like when I celebrated Chinese New Year or Lunar New Year, and I knew it from the way we celebrate in China and the way I celebrated when I was a kid. And now, with pressure of school attendance being important, having that excuse absence means something on the school record, I was torn. And the years I say he has to go, and the years I said no, he's not going. So it was just difficult. It was a difficult choice.
Why do you think it was such a hard push?
It was a hard push because many of us are tired of not being recognized. I mean, this is a major holiday that we are celebrating, and now we celebrate lots and lots of culture in the city. And it's a great thing because that's how we can learn from each other. And then not having our holiday recognized, it was just not right. It just doesn't feel right to us.
And especially when you're talking about a school that's mostly absent, you would go so you wouldn't have an absence, and you would basically be talking about Lunar New Year even there while missing the holiday.
Yeah.
Quickly, favorite Lunar New Year, favorite thing to eat on Lunar New Year?
Favorite thing to eat on Lunar New Year, probably the fish. The fish, it represents wealth and luck for the new year.
I personally, I like the sweeter stuff. I like the roast pork bun quite a bit, the hargao, which is the shrimp dumpling, and you?
My favorite food is the sweet soup dumplings that at the end of the dinner, we mix it with sesame, and it's really sweet, and that means the family being together for the new year, and it tastes great, but it also has a lot of meaning to it.
Sounds delicious. And your plan for this coming Lunar New Year?
I will get up and celebrate with my family and just hang out.
Excellent. And you?
Well, we'll be taking a day off from work. I don't have a work holiday, but we'll definitely be able to celebrate for real and not worry about Matthew missing school.
One step at a time, and the whole city will be celebrating. That's part of what's so important. This is, at this point, about who we are as a city. As our city changes, our school calendar should change with it. Growing up, I celebrate Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur, as I still do. And to know that that's part of the calendar really does mean something. Thank you very much. I look forward to eating much too much with you on Lunar New Year and beyond. Thanks again.
Thank you, Senator.
For years, I've fought for a program called Nurse-Family Partnership. You may never have heard of this program, but you should have, because it is just about the most effective program that exists to change lives. I used to chair the Social Services Committee in the State Senate, and I looked at lots of programs, and there's a lot that are valuable and a lot that we should be funding more than we are, but none as much as Nurse-Family Partnership. This is a program that's existed for 40 years. It partners high-risk first-time moms with specially trained home visiting nurses from pregnancy until the child's second birthday. And over those 40 years, they've done a lot of research, and they've found that it changes lives not just at the beginning of a kid's life and a family's life together, but for years to come. 15 years later, kids are 60% less likely to be arrested. Moms are 60% less likely to be involved in the criminal justice system. This is a program that gives people the support in the hardest time of their lives and therefore changes their lives for a long time. As a dad of a 4-year-old and a 19-month-old, I know that we need every bit of support we can at the beginning. Here with us, we have 3 folks who are living proof, inspiring proof of just what this program can do. We have Eridiana Diaz, her daughter Hailey Mendez, 3 years old, just 3, and visiting nurse Denise Alba-Rosario. So first of all, Denise, just briefly tell me, what does this program do? When does it start? What do you do during your visits, and when does it end?
Well, this program starts with the mothers, first time at-risk, low-income mothers, and we enroll them in the program before 28 weeks gestation. We visit them throughout their pregnancy and until the child is 2 years old. What we do is that we improve pregnancy health, and we also reduce complications such as low birth weight and preterm labor. We also educate them regarding breastfeeding, making sure that they attend their prenatal appointments, visit the dentist during pregnancy to help achieve healthy pregnancy outcomes. We also work with them to improve the development of the child and also to ensure that the child has a safe home to live in and in a safe environment. And we also educate them regarding the development of the child.
That's great.
We encourage them to get their vaccinations. We also encourage the mothers to become economic self-sufficient, whether it be going to school, job training. We also educate them regarding family planning to avoid any unplanned pregnancies.
It sounds like it's really sort of
Yeah.
soup to nuts, everything that's needed.
Yes.
And how long have you been doing it?
I've been a nurse home visitor for 5.5 years. After that, I became a nurse supervisor for the past 1.5 years.
And about how many families, new moms and kids, have you worked with?
About 150 personally myself, but in the Bronx Visiting Nurse Service of New York, this year alone, we served about 1,000 first-time mothers.
Wow, and those 150 families, how are they doing?
They're doing wonderful.
Is
They
that right?
achieve great outcomes. They're completely becoming a productive part of the society.
That's
They're
great.
in school job training, like I said, or finishing up either ESL classes or even graduating from high school or college. So they're doing fabulous.
That's great, and the program you said ends when the kids are 2. Are you still in touch with those families after they graduate?
Well, some of them still send me pictures of their children.
That's great. We'll have to
Yeah.
look at those in a second. But one graduate of the program is Eridiana and her daughter Hailey. I guess you're both graduates of the program. So, so tell me how you got connected to the Nurse-Family Partnership.
Well, when I was pregnant, there was actually like a comic book pamphlet about the program in my clinic. And so I took a look at it, caught my eye. And also the doctors there, they were really active about like promoting it. So I called up and I joined.
And how old were you when you got pregnant?
I was 19 years old.
You were 19, and you know this phrase gets used in
Teen
sort of
mom.
policy circles. You know, high risk mom. What does that mean? Why were you eligible? Why was Nurse-Family Partnership important for you?
It was important for me because as a Hispanic mom, and I kind of had no help. My mom was always working. She's a single mom, and then it's just in a Hispanic household, you live with people telling you so many different myths. Like, oh, well, keep the bottle until like 5 and give them soup at like 3 months. So having a nurse come to my house and tell me like, no, you're not supposed to feed your baby at 3 months, you know, because that can cause obesity or other complications like blood pressure and cholesterol later on was something like really reassuring to growing a healthy baby.
And what about, I mean, your life? Was it a scary time when you
Yes.
learned that you were going to be?
I was
parent?
devastated because I was in college. So I was like a sophomore in college. And I thought, great, now I have to work. Like the typical teen mom mentality at first. Like, oh, I can't finish school. This is going to be impossible. My life is over. But then when I had her, it was like, no, I'm definitely going to finish. Like, this is what I have to do.
That's amazing. And you did finish college.
Yes, I
Just
graduated.
Congratulations. So we have 2 big celebrations
Yeah.
recently, a 3rd birthday, May
Thanks.
30th, and a college graduation.
Yeah.
And do you think that you would have gotten there without Nurse-Family Partnership?
No. Because, like I said, I really was going to, like, for my 2nd trimester, I actually stopped, like, I took a break in college because I was like, oh my God, I'm embarrassed. I'm a teen mom. Everyone is going to look at me on campus. Like, what is going on here? Why is she here? But then as Denise kept coming to my house, she was like, no, you better go to school in September and you're going to finish.
That's right. You hear that, Hailey? That's also true for you when the time comes. You better stay in school. And now that you have a 3-year-old, just tell me what it's like. I mean, she's obviously beautiful. I
Yes,
woke up a
and
little
she's-
sick this morning, as all of us with young kids know is common. But just tell us about the joy of it.
It's great. I like love my time with her right now because since I'm not in school, I get to spend the summer and we get to play together. Because during the semester, we have to wake up early to go to school. I enjoy watching her grow and learn, and I learn from her every day as well.
And just in a couple of more seconds, what's next for you?
Next, graduate school.
So it doesn't end at college. It continues to graduate school
Yeah.
while you're still being an extraordinary mom for Hailey. And what about for Hailey? She's what's her favorite thing to do?
She likes to paint and draw. She's into art.
Oh, this is what we should have done probably. There you go. You can draw anything you want. That would have been
She's
more fun.
over the summer, we put her in the 92nd Street Y, so she's taking a dance class.
Oh, cool. And what's your favorite food?
Maduros.
And everyone, this is the one thing we have to ask. My favorite food I talk about all the time. What's yours?
Chicken franchise.
Chicken franchise. And you? Mom's going to have favorite foods too.
I like my Spanish food, so rice, beans, and chicken.
Arroz con pollo with some maduros and some tostones all together. That's good. Not too often, but it sounds great. Well, thank you very much. It's
Thank you
really,
for
I
having
mean, it's obviously always a miracle, and the work you do is extraordinary, and the life you've built for yourself, whatever sport you had, really inspiring for all of us. Hailey, I hope you feel better and keep up with the art and eating a lot of Maduros. Thanks. Today in New York State, most people would assume that every New Yorker has basic protections when it comes to their jobs, their homes, going out in public, but it's just not true. Transgender New Yorkers today do not have the same basic civil rights in New York that most New Yorkers take for granted. It is absolutely the shame of the state. This is solvable with a bill called GENDA that I sponsor. It's passed the Assembly with Assemblyman Richard Godfrey's sponsorship from Manhattan, I think 7 or 8 times. And yet we can't get the New York State Senate to simply say every New Yorker should have the basic civil rights that most New Yorkers take for granted. It's unacceptable. I've got 3 people who care a lot about this issue, and I'm going to start with my first guest right now, Q Daly. Hi, Q.
Hi.
So where do you live?
Brooklyn.
Brooklyn, New York?
Yeah.
So do I. And how old are you?
I'm 9.
You're 9, and so you're in school. What grade are you in?
3rd grade.
3rd grade. And just tell me, what's your favorite thing to do?
Climbing and running.
Climbing and running. That's pretty good. And do you like school?
Yeah.
And where do you go to school again?
BNS.
BNS, what is that? What does that stand for?
Brooklyn New School.
Brooklyn New School. So you're a 3rd grader at Brooklyn New School?
Yeah.
Brooklynite? You love climbing and running. Are you fast?
Yeah.
Sure, you're faster than me. We can race after the show. So I want to turn to your mother, Francisca Montana. And so why is this issue personally important to you?
Well, my kid needs to have the same rights that everybody else. It is just not fair that other people get the basics and mine doesn't. Yeah, so like what we are trying to do is raise awareness about this issue specifically, like the disparity, and but also raise awareness about the fact that some people in the New York State are not covered by like the most simple rights. Yeah, you can be discriminated against when you go and ask for a job. You can be discriminated against when you go look for housing, and this of course put a certain population in a position which is like absurd. It's just like at this time in our lives and the 21st century, it just doesn't make any sense.
And when you say your kid deserves the same rights as everyone else, you have how many kids?
I have 2.
You have 2 kids, and one of your kids is a transgender New Yorker.
One of my kids is a transgender New Yorker,
Excellent.
and I want
and
to
an
say
activist too.
Yeah, and I want to say a proud transgender New Yorker. We like also fight for visibility, yeah, and for like humanizing the issue. Like people think about transgender issues at the moment, and they think about like, I don't know, celebrities or like really like, I don't know, this like different things that don't really resonate with the reality in the ground, yeah? Transgenders are a lot of people. You don't even know who is transgender and who's not. And you shouldn't, like, it shouldn't be an issue. So we want to bring visibility to this also.
That's great. And we also have with us Melissa Sklarz, whose record as an advocate is the size of a phone book. We don't have time to talk about it, but Melissa is also on the board of the Empire State Pride Agenda, former president of Stonewall Democrats. So why is recognition important, Melissa?
It's very important because New York is a beacon. People come from all over the world to be in New York for a whole bunch of different reasons, and that includes transgender people. So we have hundreds of thousands of people with gender identity issue and transgender issues, and to be able to get basic, simple civil rights protection, legal protection, and the ability to live a life just like every other New Yorker is very important.
Now, some people have said to me when I say, look, this is crazy, in the 21st century, no one's willing to stand up and say some people should be discriminated against. Why can't we get this bill passed? Some people say, oh, this is just about waving a flag and about being a new group that gets talked about on TV. Is that true?
Senator, we're running out of people to try to convince that trans lives matter. We have virtually the entire state supports us, from all the unions and faith leaders and all the newspapers, the police forces, most elected officials, most of the people, 75% of New Yorkers. And yet there's a small group in the Senate that is determined that this bill is unnecessary or they're inventing reasons not to support us.
And so tell me from a personal standpoint why this bill is so important.
When, as a child, I felt different, I didn't have a language, I didn't have role models, I fought my feelings very hard. In the end, I was forced to embrace it. I dealt with years of substance abuse, I was homeless, and then once I was able to have my authentic life, it took years to find a job. I was out of work for over 5 years. I was lucky to be able to be hired by Gay Men's Health Crisis and Gay Games. Now I have a job that I've turned into a career. That opportunity should be available for all transgender people, regardless of their educational background or their race or class.
And you suffered discrimination in employment because of who you are.
When I used to go to employment agencies, there was one place I went to, they thought that I had been sent there as a joke. They didn't take it seriously. I tried to get a job. I have a corporate experience and a college degree, and I tried to get a job as a receptionist and administrative assistant. And I was lectured at one place about my appearance, how it's inappropriate, and that if I wanted to be taken seriously, I should present myself more seriously. This is a few years ago, and it certainly adds fuel to my effort and energy to make this available to everyone.
Right. Well, I mean, it's amazing to think that that's not a story of the past, as so many stories of discrimination are in this country, shameful stories of discrimination. That's a story that's still, under state law, allowable until this bill passes. Let me ask you, you go to a school, I'm sure, with a lot of Brooklynites with all kinds of backgrounds. Do you think any of the kids you go to school with could imagine that someone could be told you can't live here or you can't be hired just because of who you are? Does that make any sense?
No.
Why not?
Because people can do what they want to, but they can't be mean and they can't tell other people what to do.
It's pretty amazing that the New York State doesn't understand that, and you understand that so well. So what do you think is the hope here to get gender passed, just so that we can all live our lives, all have the same protections that as people, as New Yorkers, we should all have?
Well, I hope that the Senate get to, I don't know, just come to a realization that this is just so overdue. It's not even, it's a joke at this point. It's like, you can't just keep some people from having the basic.
A tragic joke. What would, and I'll ask any of you, I'll start with you, Melissa. What would you say to senators who just want to avoid the issue? They think it's a little politically uncomfortable. They think it's not that big a deal. We don't need these protections for transgender New Yorkers. What would you say to them?
Supreme Court has ruled that all gay and lesbian families are legal and protected in the eyes of the law. There are 2 states in America where same-sex marriage, where marriage equality is the law without transgender protections and civil rights. One is New Hampshire and the other is New York. The idea that whether you're a young person like you or an older person like me, and we're still going to have to struggle without the idea that our government will protect us, is unfortunate. What our enemies in the Senate should do is let the bill come to the floor. Let's discuss this openly. There's nothing controversial about it. 20 states already have these protections. 3/4 of the people in this state have these protections. I should not have to worry about whether I can go to the bathroom if I travel to Suffolk County and worry about what happens in Nassau County, or if I go speak to our representatives in Albany, if something happens along the way on the thruway, whether my civil rights will be protected or not.
Plus, the state should have a role. It shouldn't be left to localities, although I would say the town of Vico, Kentucky, population 1,700, is ahead of New York on this, if you could believe it. Francisca, briefly, what would you say to senators who would rather this issue go away, be kept in a back room instead of providing basic civil rights for all New Yorkers? What would you say to them?
Well, I will ask them, what made them think that my kid shouldn't have the same protections that everybody else in this state? Why? What makes them think that this is the way to go? If it's not important for them, maybe they should look around and learn more about their communities and be more real about what is happening to this population, to us.
And Q, what would you say to someone who thinks it's okay to treat someone differently because of who they are or how they dress or what they look like?
Well, I wouldn't if they wouldn't want to be treated that way, they shouldn't do it to other people, because if you do it to other people, they'll hurt your feelings.
That's right. And there's no reason to do it. We are all who we are. Thank you all very much for doing this and for your fight. And if you want to join this fight for basic equality for all New Yorkers, whether you know someone or love someone who's transgender, today or tomorrow or never, it's all of our fight until we have a state that treats everyone equally, and Q said it much better than I did. Thank you so much. I'd like to thank all my guests for joining Represent NYC. I invite viewers to contact my office with questions using the information on the screen. I'm New York State Senator Daniel Squadron, and this is really all about the work that we do in politics and government, getting out of the fights, getting out of the insider language, getting out of the lobbyists and special interests who too often are the only conversation, and actually about why the work matters or should matter for you. I hope you're in touch. There's a lot more issues to talk about. Thanks for the time.